Don't cry cause it ain't gon' rain every day. Don't despair cause it ain't your way. Keep it real, make the best out of any situation that you come across. Some lose, some lost, I'ma shake it off and get back to what I'm really about. Give the crowd something to feel. Tell me why you scream.
You are listening to the Jonessa Podcast.
Conversations from the couch.
We are doing big things out here, baby. Oh my goodness. We are only getting bigger. Listen, before we get started tonight, we have to recognize our last podcast guest,
Dr. Alicia.
Dr. Alicia Watkins.
It's still kind of surreal that we were able to have her on.
I know. I've watched that episode so many times, and every time it's like I'm back in that moment, just in awe of her knowledge and just. She was just amazing. I'm still speechless. Yeah. So I apologize once again, podcast guest, for if I came across a little bit nervous, but
he was fine. I talked to him about that. I said, you know what? Listen, our couch cousins, yes, they need to know the real and everything that we have out there. But you didn't have to say you were nervous because you did fine. You were just fine.
You did better than me, but you always do.
No, I don't know. No, I don't.
You're so poised, so well put together.
That comes from pageants.
Listen, you called me out when I said that on the episode.
What? Being poised comes from pageants? Oh, okay. No, that's just who I naturally am. That's me. How about that? Nobody wants to hear that.
Okay. So, birthday coming up.
Yes.
Awesome.
I'm excited about my birthday. When this week started, I was like, you know what? We're going to go into this week. It's going to be a good week. And it's just been a week. We'll say that. But, I'm just glad to be alive and being able to celebrate another year. Either way.
Yes. I won't tell your age. I know.
I'm fine with my age.
Okay. 34
I'm
years
turning
young.
34. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, it's a stressful week, but you work in a very stressful field.
Yes.
And your occupation, the podcast listeners, the
couch cousins,
all know about your...
Put some respect on their name.
I'm sorry. All know about your occupation, and we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight.
I'm so excited that we get to talk about my occupation.
I feel like I've been hogging this season.
You have been hogging this season, so I'm really excited.
But we're going to talk about it tonight with another. Listen, we are coming through with a guest.
Listen, now he's big time. Now
he is big.
Let's just be clear.
Time.
Yeah,
he hails from the great state of Texas.
Yeah, they do it big in Texas.
He is doing very big things. I reached out to this brother. He was more than willing to come in and talk on our podcast about education and some of the problems that we are facing, and possibly potentially discuss some of the solutions. He is brother Kendrick Thomas, doing big things, coming straight from Houston, Texas.
Yes, sir.
Houston, Texas.
Come on now. Slow down.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on our podcast, Mr. Thomas. Before we get started, just let our audience know a little bit about yourself and what you're doing down there in the great state of Texas.
Yes, sir. As you say, Kendrick Thomas, administrator, podcaster, life coach, mentor, everything. Elementary, been doing this since 2001. Administrator since 2016. Boys Club. Each week we point into the lives of about 30 minority males. Man, it's so much. The podcast going out to a few thousand each week. The radio showing out a few 100,000 each week. So we're just working, brother.
That is what's
that's
up.
awesome. You're putting in some work.
Yes. How do you juggle all that? Because I see how my wife, how this and being a principal just consumes her schedule. How are you juggling all that?
Man, look, I would just give you an example of today. So hit the ground running. Of course, you got meetings after meetings. So I was in one meeting from 12 to 3. Then you're going to do this missile. I had to jump on a coaching call with another school district here in Houston. Stayed on there for an hour, drove home, meeting with you guys, life coaching after that, session after that. So, hey, look, how bad do you want it? Is the question.
Wow. Hope he's not putting ideas in your head, baby.
Oh, hey, listen, the plate is full. We're okay. We're good.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into this topic because we have some important things to talk about tonight, Brother Thomas, and I'm just excited to see the dialogue between you and my wife as two administrators and two soldiers right at the front of the battlefield when it comes to educating us.
But the teachers are the front of the battlefield. We're not going to take that away from them.
Yeah, for real.
If we didn't have them, then we wouldn't be able to do our job.
You're right.
Amen.
Generals.
Yeah, that's it, man. Yeah, love the coach, man. I got to call the plays. That's it, man.
Yeah. So, in your professional opinion, what do our children truly need from educators and adults, curriculum and discipline wise? Are we doing an adequate job in providing this to our children?
Yeah. So the first piece, in thinking about what we need, man, that can go two different ways. Pre-pandemic, I think behaviorally or discipline wise, we always need the same thing, right? Empathy versus sympathy. So then, I talk about that from an experience of working at a school that was 98% other than African American, but a 76% African American population, right? And so then the teachers were upper to middle class teachers who really didn't understand the demographics and how to empathize with them. They always felt sorry, which means in a sense they lowered the bar for them, right? So I think one big thing that we need going forward and past is that empathy within our classrooms. As far as the curriculum, man, I think that is a big piece. It's always changing. They always adopting something, right? But I think until we kind of start getting into the background of the students that we serve in different school districts and letting them see some more of a little bit of their history, curriculum wise, man, we probably gonna still struggle because we are not meeting the needs of every population as we teach.
Wow.
Okay. All right. So I would definitely say that we also need consistency with like the discipline piece. And this could also go for curriculum. When we're thinking about discipline and we're just thinking about trying to have our students, just rear our students in the right direction, a lot of times we're like, okay, and we do have to make accommodations for certain students. We can't give every single student the same type of consequence or the same type of treatment. I'm not saying that, but we have to be consistent in what we are doing for our students. If we see a child that is doing something well, then we need to be consistent in saying, hey, you're doing a great job. If we see a student that needs some correction, we need to be like, hey, come on in here, sit on down, let's talk about it, and let's try to find a way to help you alter your behavior. Also, we have to be on the same team. If we are not on the same team as our teachers in the building, as our custodians, as our bus drivers, as our district office, we're going to bump into some roadblocks because we might see things one way, like, nope, I think this is what we need to do for this student. And then if we're not being consistent across the board, then all of our children are going to be at a disadvantage because we're just all willy-nilly with what we're doing with discipline. As far as curriculum, I feel like we need to be consistent. As you said, Mr. Kendrick, like we're changing our curriculum on a regular basis. And some things do need to stay in place and we just need to be consistent about it. Let's see if this is going to work. Is this new guided math, guided reading, what we're utilizing in social studies? Is it really going to help our students? Give it some time.
Yes.
And then let's try to come up with another plan. But I think consistency is key in education. And we do need more diversity in what we're giving our children as far as the curriculum. We do. And like, we're not even going to go into like where people would want for this to go, because that's not what it's about. But we just need to give our children an opportunity to see different things. And it doesn't necessarily have to be their full background. It could be someone's background too.
And just to add one more piece for that discipline also, you're thinking about the differentiation that needs to happen too, right? Because when you got those frequent flyers, like you say, man, if I decide to do the same thing with that frequent flyer every time, that guy would never be in class. So then you always got to be figuring out those restorative practices, always how to teach them how to have conversations and problem solve amongst themselves before you kind of issue out those consequences. So I think that is a big piece of what we need from teachers and leaders.
And I will also say, thank you for saying that. I agree with you. Social emotional. We need to be helping our children. And this is not just children in poverty. This is not just children in higher socioeconomic classes. No, it's all of our children. We need to teach them how to be able to handle their emotions. Because think about it, conflict resolution on a job, OMG. Just as much as we're dealing with the student, we are having to deal with the adults. And if that is something that they can learn when they are children and when they are growing up, that's going to be powerful when they go into the workforce as adults.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
It's funny, y'all both said, I know you said frequent flyers.
Yeah.
It's funny because my wife used to throw out this term. She doesn't use it anymore. High flyers.
Oh no, I still use it. Just maybe I still use it. I still use high flyers.
I feel like y'all use
Did the
it.
same thing.
Yeah. Look, man, cause I guarantee you they will fly higher than everybody else. And you always see them.
Oh, you see them coming.
Yeah.
In the morning, after lunch, after recess, you see them.
Yeah. I always tell my teachers, those students, either you're gonna do something with this time or I'll do something with it for you. And that's pretty much it, man. So we got to be able to understand those kids and be proactive in their regards.
Yeah. Is the curriculum kind of similar across the board, or is it different from each state? Because I know you're out in Texas and we're in South Carolina.
Yeah.
It can differ from state to state. There's always some similarities. We won't get into this whole either, but we have the Common Core, and then South Carolina broke away from that.
Yeah.
And of course, so did other states. So there's similarities, but there's a lot of differences as well.
Yeah. And I'll just say this. I'm in Texas. I don't know what that means for y'all, but if you look on the news, it means way different things from the rest of the world. So just think of that education aside.
Yeah.
We understand.
Yeah, no, I understand. I have a niece and a nephew out in Texas, and I know it's a very challenging as far as academics are concerned, and like very competitive as far as trying to get into those big state schools. Is it still like that, or have they kind of loosened up a little bit?
No, man, very, very competitive. I think about one of our students that I was talking to just graduated last year, got a full ride to Harvard. That was just the school he picked, but he had a full ride everywhere. First African-American valedictorian at his school, period. And so then, but you just got to think about how hard that young brother had to work. In our conversation to talking about it, it was nothing that was given to him. So yeah, man, still very competitive though, because you got several guys like that coming up these days, because it's just changing on the way that they're starting to see things. These games are making kids' minds work like we've never seen them before. So when they get into those classrooms, and the ones that really get it. And so luckily that number is getting higher, which means that those top spots in that class are getting more competitive. But that means also more money on the back end for more kids who are earning it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes, sir.
And it's cool that you said that, because it kind of goes into what I'll talk about next. You brought up how a young man who had performed very well in school, and he's going to an Ivy League school, which no matter if it's 20 years ago or today, that's still extremely impressive. But on the flip side of that, we do have a lot of young men and boys who are simply not interested or engaging anymore when it comes to academics. And the Wall Street Journal recently put out an article highlighting that the number of men enrolled at 2- and 4-year colleges has fallen behind women by record levels in an already widening education gap across the country. Could you see this eventually occurring with young males in grade school, specifically young men not engaging in any type of education? Like, could you see them like, you know what, I don't even plan on going to college, so why should I even waste my time going to school? I think they call that truancy.
Now you're running out. Yes, you can't be truant, but you don't have to use the educational lingo. Okay.
Yeah, man. I most definitely see that, right? Because as being on an elementary campus, I get to see the quote unquote handling of the kid, right? I get to see the parents' involvement, because by the time you get to high school, middle school, you're more self-sufficient, so their parent involvement is less. But I get to see it from day one, pre-K all the way up to this 4th grade. And so a lot of the times, man, I'm not seeing those fathers anymore, right? I'm seeing mom be the go-to person, mom being the point for everything, even if daddy is in the house, but a lot of times it's not. And so with that, you get to looking for that role outside of the house. And so then you start to see a lot of guys who don't necessarily put school or keeping me in school as a part of that issue. And so, dude, we talking about, I've been doing my boys club since 2014. I've had to literally transform it from talking about highlighting social skills, highlighting these things, to really accepting the fact that all of my people won't go to college. They won't go to that 4-year college, right? And so what do I do now as a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old who sees other people and they don't highlight this? They say, come, you get a job. I say, okay, we pivoted, and now I created this program called Artists and Scholars. And so then we get to have these young men talk to people from the community, men that they get to see who are doing plumbing, who are doing electrical, engineering, all these STEM pieces, and they get to come in. But I think if we don't have programs like that, we're going to start losing them even earlier, right? And so then they do become those men who are not enrolled in a 2-year, 4-year college, those men who don't graduate high school because they lost their love so early. And so that's why it's imperative that we start early as possible, getting them engaged, especially at my level, because I don't get a chance to, like I say, see dad. So then on top of me being administrator, on top of me being teacher, mentor, then I'm also co-parent. Right. And I've gotten calls on the Saturday, man, well, can you come over here and whoop him? Or those type of telephone calls, but it's because of that lack of that role model for that young man. And then they end up like that.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
What are you seeing on your end as far as the young man is concerned, baby?
You know what? I'm going to tell you this. I knew that we were going to have our podcast and we were going to be talking about this. And today, a lot of the students that were having some issues in class were males. And I promise you, I remember walking down the hallway and thinking, this is what we're talking about. This is what's going on with our male students on an elementary level as well.
Yeah.
3 through 5. And it really was just like, man, what can we do? And, you want to be able not to climb Anger Mountain and you want to be able to get on their level and talk to them and really see what's going on, because it was nothing but male students. So I'm just going to have to tell you, it is a reality. Yeah. And so as administrators, we do have to find ways to kind of come at them at a different angle, because sometimes shaking your finger does not work. It might just be, come on in here, let's sit down. Yeah. You take a minute, you're going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes. And then we're going to talk about this and we're going to work it out. What is going on? Because seeing it firsthand, we are losing some of our male students because this is different. And not all students, and I am for structure, I'm not even going to pretend like I'm not, but not all of our students can walk in a straight line all the time, be on a level 0 every single time. And like, that's not for all children. So we do have to find some way to reach them, but we also have to find a way to reward them. And so it is important on our level, on a teacher level, to engage our students the best way that we can, because we are definitely losing males. And I would also have to agree that all students don't have to go to college. All children do not have to go to college. Like, that is not the way to win. Like, think about it. There's a lot of people right now that are making plenty of money and they did not go to college. So there's nothing wrong with letting our children see that there's other avenues that you can take besides going to college. But hey, you need to know college can be for you. I think there might be some instances where you think, I can't afford it, I can't go, I can't do it. No, you need to know if you want to go, you have the opportunity to go. But if you choose not to go to college, hey, what are we going to do now? You can do other things, and we need to show that in the schools as well.
Yeah, that's that was one of the things. Like I told them, the main focus of the program is to say, you don't get a trade because you didn't go. It's, I chose to do this versus this, but I want you to put both of them on an equal playing field and understand that both of them are for you. You make the choice on which one is best. Yeah. And so that's what we got to do, man, because they don't believe that they don't believe only one route. And I'll give you a prime example. A few years ago in my district, we opened up a career center, right? And so as a high school, you get bused from your high school over here to nursing programs, car mechanics. It was one point they would not let elementary kids even have a field trip over there to see that place. And so what are you telling me as an elementary student? And what are you telling me as I'm working hard to not have these guys decide when they get to high school that this is what they want to do? Because by then it's almost too late, because like I say, my district is Title I, so it's real over here, you know? And so, man, it's just building up those kids early and giving them that exposure to these programs. If not, that's what that statistic calls for.
Yeah, that program that you have, your mentorship program, is awesome, man. Because this topic is very serious, and not a lot of people really understand what's going on with this. This is a huge issue because when you have young men who feel like they don't fit into society and don't have anything to do to occupy their time, what's often the result of that is crime. So I mean, this is serious. That this is a serious topic that the country really needs to pay attention to.
Yeah, man.
I want to dive a little bit deeper because it seems like there must be some type of disconnect. Does a disconnect exist between not having enough males and men mentoring like you do, or inside of the schools and around? Is that where the disconnect starts, or is there something deeper than that?
I'm gonna say so. A few weeks ago, I did an all men's conference, right? All African American men. It was reclaiming our purpose, like a men's conference. And when I tell you, we had Black brothers talking about finance, talking about health, talking about anything you can imagine. We even had a few panels and some pastors who were talking about marriage. But I went to church that next Sunday. I said, she got to see the God in me first after I talked to them brothers. But the biggest thing is we kept saying, inside of the school, I'm here for these many hours. I can give it to you. But once you go home, if the OGs in the neighborhood ain't about nothing, and these are the guys you see, these are the guys you look up to, regardless of what I say every day, if nothing happens. And so then it got to start outside of that school, man. And it got to start with those people in the neighborhood that have the most influence on these kids, right? They see what I'm driving, they see what I'm doing, but it don't really matter because your relationship or your hard relationship, your family relationship with your uncle who probably hustling and doing things in the community, but he not dropping no knowledge on you. And so then you want to value what he value, which is not school. And so it got to be the people outside of the school that I believe are really going to hit that home run. And so as administrators, that's why, it's so important that we build those connections with our community. Whether it's the football coach or the AAU team or people like that, because those are the people that really turn that thing around. And then I bring them in and I foster it from there.
Wow.
Yeah. And it kind of makes me think about, one of my former students, that's a male, and, we've kind of adopted him, and he himself has gotten into some trouble, and, he has Joseph as a role model to be around. He comes over here, he'll spend the night with us, but he will leave here and he goes back into the environment that he's around all the time, like you're saying. And sometimes all of the work that, we're trying to pour in, it kind of gets discounted in a way once he goes back to where he is from. So I agree with you. It takes us, people that are trying to do the right thing, being in that community, being visible, saying we are working together. I'm not trying to make you better. Ugh, no, that's a bad way to think about it. We are working together to make our communities better. And so if we are more visible there, it's not necessarily men being visible in the school. Can we be visible in the communities? Can I roll up to your house and be like, hey, y'all, how you doing? And just be there to show you, hey, we can, our worlds can connect, as well as you can come over here and our worlds can connect. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I got chased by 2 dogs last school year, man. I'm going to your house, man. Where you at? We need you at school. We see you on the computer, but come on back in this building. Some kind of way that the gate got open. I had to run to the car real quick, but I got my piece in before I left. But that's the kind of grassroots that it takes, man, to get out. Because like I say, we can bring them in, we can love on them, but we're still the people that foster that growth. But I think the people in the community are the ones who initiate it.
Yeah,
and maintain it in a sense.
I feel like you're stepping on my toes because I often wonder, like, is there something that I could be doing more? Like, yes, I feel like I'm doing my part because I have a son and I'm trying to raise him the correct way, but that's kind of easy. Like, there are other young men, and like, as my wife mentioned, I think about her former student literally all the time. My heart breaks because he's at that age where he's considered an adult now. I mean, he's going to be treated as an adult when he makes big mistakes. And I don't want anything bad to happen to him. But at the same time, I'm like, what good am I doing? We'll have him on the weekends and we'll pour all this into him. But as you and my wife said, it gets undone because the environment, his foundation that he was being around is always kind of undermining it. So it's like, if I put myself out there, like how much of a difference would I really make?
But you have to be, it goes back to what consistency. It goes back to being consistent, because although they are looking to the OGs that are in the neighborhood and what they are doing, they will remember.
Oh yeah, they watch it.
About people that made impact in my life, you know, I remember them. Those children, the children will remember what you were able to do for them. And they might think, you know what, I kind of do want to live that lifestyle that I'm seeing that's in front of me. That's something a little bit different from what I'm used to. So it takes being consistent and not giving up when you feel like, oh, I'm doing this in vain. You just have to say, I'm working to make a change in at least one child's life.
Yeah, because if he didn't care, he wouldn't be there in the first place. Especially if a brother get an option to choose where I want to go, right? So it's something that bring him there, but it's just another bigger pull on that other side. And so then I think that's when you connect with those people on the other side and say, well, what's going on over here? Or let them see y'all working as a team and then talking about your values to them, because we all want what's best. And so if you can get it like that, I think that's when we all win. Because I think about me, the biggest piece for me was like teachers, but my background, I was transient though. I have 2 middle schools, 2 elementary schools, 2 high schools. So I always had to make friends. But when I got to 7th grade, I had this after school program that I was able to make it to. And so that was my consistent piece, right? When I had to talk to those guys, and man, I'm talking about, it was a guy on the bus. He wasn't a teacher. He wasn't nothing. He was a bus driver. But when I tell you I was sitting behind him and he would game me up for life, that is the person that I would never forget, right? And so those are the people, man.
Wow, that is awesome. Kendrick, what was kind of like your breaking point to make you realize like I have to do something? Like what motivated you to start doing something and focusing on these young men?
It was that same school, man. It was that same school. So I was a football coach, track coach, right? And so then I was also interning for my administrator in high school. And so a lot of the times I would see my players who were African-American get rolled up, come into the office, and now I got to step out of the role as coach. We're going to handle that coach later because I'm going to see you on this field, but step into that role as administrator, doing that investigation, asking those questions, and finding out it was really something simple, right? Maybe he didn't come to school with a pencil that day, or maybe he wasn't prepared, and so you brothers say, oh, you feel sorry for me, let me take advantage of this situation, right? Versus give me what I need, get me in this classroom, get me going, you kick me out. And so then I think with that being said, brother, we got to do something different. We got to do something different when it comes down to discipline, because if we don't, man, we lose kids. And so once I kept seeing that, I said, I got to do something. And I read a book by Principal Kafele, Motivating Minority Males. And I was able to talk to him actually about that book. But once I read that book, man, he really gave a play-by-play on setting up a boys club. And dude, I got started because also the biggest part too was I was a special education English teacher. And so then I'm seeing a lot of the kids I was dealing with, my emotionally disturbed students, were young men who were at a high need facility. So they become violent and aggressive. Dude, I would pour into these young men. I'm talking about clothes, money, time, anything, man. I remember one time, yeah, forgive me, this you don't fire me, but I remember one day, dude, I had to just go over there and get into a dice game, because now I get a chance to talk to these young men, though. I got a house full of young brothers who looking at me like, man, Coach, cool. But then I get that was my end to them. So with those pieces and seeing these young men, losing them, pouring into them, by now I get them calm. They got to be shipped. I say, we got to save them. And well, we got to do something where even when I'm not here, then this will keep going. And so that's why we set up these programs, man.
Wow. That's amazing, man. That is really amazing. Your heart is really, really in it.
Man.
I commend you on that.
I appreciate it.
It takes a special person to be an administrator and care so much. I see it every single day with my wife. Like, She cares so much. When she was
man.
a teacher, oh my goodness, can I tell you, she would have started a girls program if I would have allowed it for young girls.
But you know, we don't do it for the money.
No, we don't.
Right? We don't do it for the money because I promise the way I feel, I can go be a paper push and get way more bread for this, right? But at the end of the day, I was just at the store last night, 30 minutes away from my home, and I hear somebody screaming, "Mr. Thomas!" And it was a high school student that I taught when he was in elementary. You know, and so that's it right there. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
Man.
There's no better feeling than that. Like, honestly, that like pays you literally $1 million.
I'm telling
you. Get an email, or if they find you on social media and they send you like a message, like, oh my gosh, they remember. Nothing better than that.
Man. Yeah. That's what's up. So Kendrick, one last question, man, and thank you so much. You've been amazing, exceeded everything. Like it's so I love seeing the dialogue and the banter between two educators.
Yeah, man.
And I like that he has a male perspective and I have a female perspective. I like that.
Yeah. Yes, that is awesome. So COVID-19. Wow.
God bless us.
Yeah. It has impacted and affected several industries and work environments, education being one. COVID-19 virtually caused the world to evolve and adapt to a new way of living and conducting business. How can the educational field evolve and become more appealing as a potential career choice and as a need instead of just an option for younger generations?
Yeah. Brother, that's a hard question. Because I will tell you, we are the highest paid district for first year teachers in Houston. Mm-hmm. Right? You can come out of school with us and make $59,000 your first year. Most people still living with their mom.
Yeah.
And so, but at the end of the day, I still see people say it's an option. Like, because I'm seeing so many first year teachers come in and they think teaching is easy. And so then I think the way we do it is we got to change the face of it. We got to change like what it looked like. We got to get teachers more prepared. So one thing that I started to do, and I don't know why it always revolves around Black men, but I started working with one of the colleges down here, right? And so they're saying, how do we get more African-American males into college? So what we're doing is we're following kids from 8th grade on up, right? Talking to them, getting them going through these trainings, getting them going through these programs. Then we follow them through college, and we're still pouring into them, bringing them back to the district. And so finally, once they graduate, we already have things set up for them to come to our district. But we've been following these kids and pouring into them since 8th grade. I think it takes more projects like those, whether it's a woman, whether it's a man, Black, brown, white, anything. But they have to kind of understand what goes along with this passion, and then being able to do it successfully, see success, and then word of mouth is so real. But I think right now people saying, man, go in there and get you some summers off, work 187 days a year, and you're going to get paid. That's option talk, and that also leads to me having to come to your class because you're really unbothered by what's going on. I'll tell you, so then, man, we got to change the face of it and get people talking different about it, right? And that's how we do it.
Not that handsome.
And to kind of continue in that same vein, we as educators have to talk the profession up. We can, when someone says, I want to become a teacher, you need like, yes, that's what you want to do. You do want to become a teacher. It's the greatest profession on earth. Is it difficult? Yes, it is. Yes. It's hard. Yes, it is. But it is so rewarding. So us as educators, we have to change what we are saying. And also, I think experience, in my opinion, I don't get paid for that, but in my opinion, is the best teacher. So we have to get more students that are thinking about education just out there in schools, because it is a big shock. If you've never worked in a Title I school before, I'm just going to speak on that experience. And so you worked in a non-Title I school, and then you get a job in a Title I school, and you're like, what is this? You don't realize some of the challenges that the students are going to face that are coming into you. So if we could have our teachers or potential teachers working in different types of schools, Title I schools, non-Title I schools, charter schools, like just different schools and getting that experience, that would also help. And we need a little less books. And I know that sounds crazy in education, a little less books and a lot more getting in that classroom and working with those children. It's like you think I'm going to be a third grade teacher. I don't have to teach a child how to read.
After this pandemic,
you may have to teach a child how to read. And so I'm a new teacher. I'm new to teaching, and I'm just walking in, and you're expecting me to do this. Well, what are my tools? What are you going to give me? And yes, districts, of course, support first year teachers. You know, we have academies and things of that nature. But if I would have had just a little bit of experience to know, oh, there's a possibility I might have to teach a student how to read in the upper elementary grade, it's a little bit more, you can accept it a little bit more. It's not as hard. But education is something that is needed. And it does kind of need to change. Think about our teachers. You know, they wore their jeans was all like sunk in the back, and they really weren't that cool. They wore mom jeans when they weren't cool. So now, you know, you kind of want to be like a cool kid, like as a teacher. Like I feel like that's important for children to see, like education is cool. It is fun. It's something to do, you know?
Yeah.
Man, for career day, I had 3 kids. I said on Mr. Thomas. That's what it's about, dude. That's what they came with their ties on. Don't talk about suited up, but that's what it's about, man. Fostering that early, right? So
because you've made a relationship with them, and I know we've been talking about specifically minority males, but it's important in education to make relationships with children, because if they feel like if they feel like you don't really care about them, I'm just walking through this school door and I'm walking back out, and I know no one has my best interest in mind. That's another thing you're not going to want to learn. So we have to build relationships. They could be talking about anime. You better listen. Yeah. You better act like you know what they're talking about, because that's also important to kind of capture them to love education.
Yeah.
Man, so much.
It's crazy because great information, because when I thought about this, it made me think about that previous question, because if you don't evolve in anything in life, you eventually die out. And part of the reason why there may not be any interest is from the males, and as far as education, is because education is not evolving.
Yes, sir.
And you have to evolve. And I'm seeing all these different industries and different fields, even in my company. Like we had a leadership meeting today about how we're evolving and doing things differently. And we're having flexibility as far as scheduling. And I'm like, that's what you have to do. You can't be rigid, especially with younger generations, because the generations, we only get younger. You have to appeal to the younger generation. So if you're dealing with Generation Z, who are going to be your next teacher, the millennials and Generation X, they're your teachers now. Now you have to appeal to the Generation Z. How can you make this appealing to them? If I was a member of the Generation Z, thank goodness, I probably would not want to get into the education field.
Yeah, no, it's hard now, man.
Yeah, but what you, Mr. Thomas, is doing, and what my wife is doing, just to self-disclose, my wife, man, is the principal at my elementary school looked like my wife. See, it was cool like my wife.
Yeah, but it's different now.
See, you ran out. You ran out.
It's relatable as Kendrick is.
Shooting dice.
That will keep me interested and motivated.
Yeah.
I'll potentially be like, you know what? I could see myself doing what Mr. Thomas does in the future.
Yeah.
I have something to say though. I really do, and I genuinely feel this. Although we want people to become educators and we want education, it is a true calling. Like I have to say that all people are not teachers. All people are not educators. And honestly, I'm kind of okay with that, Joe. So I have to tell you, if you want to be in this profession, you need to make sure it's a calling. Make sure that you know I'm doing this for a reason. This is my purpose. This is why I live, breathe, eat, to educate children. And it can be on a different level. It doesn't have to be reading, writing, and arithmetic. No, it's just teaching them things as an educator. So it may not be appealing to some people. And you know what? I'm fine with that. Because when you walk into my school building, I'm just going to get personal. When you walk into my school building, I want you to know this is where I want to be. There's no other occupation for me. I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah, that's it, man. I could teach reading, and I could teach differentiation. I could teach techniques, but I cannot teach passion. So if you don't want to do this, it's going to be rough on you.
It's gonna be rough.
Yeah.
It's gonna be rough
That's it, man.
Wow.
because it's
Yeah.
rough even when you want to be there.
Yeah.
It's rough even when you want to be there.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Man, amazing stuff.
Yeah,
Mr.
man.
Thomas, you came
He
through,
came
man.
through.
Yeah. Yeah.
We knew it.
Yeah, you can tell you.
Yeah. Look, I just talk about the passion, brother.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a topic that I'm passionate about.
Mhm.
By osmosis, I will admit it. If it weren't for my wife, I probably would not be as passionate about it. But when you have someone that you love that's in the field, and you're seeing how much they care and how much they're invested into it, and of course she's invested, so I'm invested. You really want to see the field grow and become this best version of itself. And I don't like seeing her stressed out over things that I'm like, why are they doing it like this? Like it's difficult.
I'll tell you, man, we playing catch up, and it's getting real hard to try to fill these gaps, and so you got to be real creative. And so I don't know how it is in Carolina, but down here, we in a sense fighting against our state, right? You know, they want to mandate things. We trying to get other things passed to make it better, and so that makes it even harder as leaders. You know, we just passed the new bill, like House Bill 4545, and so, dude, I can only have 3 kids in the group at a time, right? And so you think about things as small as that, when at least give me 2 more. You know, let me try to work something. You see, I got to break down a 21 kid class of 3 people at a time. And so when you got things like that, that makes it difficult, right? Because we got so many gaps, and now we are charged with putting kids 2 years ahead. It was always 1, and we're going to shoot for 2, but now you missed the whole school year. And some kids are still at the house. And so, dude, we got some big charges. Your wife know how real it is. But I think only through that consistency that she spoke of and that passion and relationships do we get ahead. You know, Rita Pearson said, I never learned from anybody I don't like. So then we got to have meaningful relationships, meaningful work as we try to push kids ahead.
Awesome.
I agree.
Mr. Thomas, leave our audience with your information and how can they find you and follow you on different platforms.
Yes, sir. The website, KTTV, right there, shameless plug. KTTV.com. There you'll be able to kind of see the speaking, you'll be able to kind of get the podcast, audio, visual podcast, just everything we got, man. Go to the website, KTTV.com. You'll be able to catch the social media from there. But just the value, and that's what it's about, adding to people's life.
Yes,
sir.
Thank you so much, Kendrick, man. You have been an amazing guest. Kudos to everything that you're doing down there in Texas.
Keep up the fight, even when it's difficult, even when you feel like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. You need to do what you're doing because you really are making a difference. And I don't even personally know you. I just know you from like social media and things like that. I just want to say you're doing great work. And thank you for what you're doing for education.
Look, if you can see, you see them bags right there? Look at them bags. But I'm finna get on this coaching call and get this young man all I got.
That's
right, because that's what it's about.
Yes. Until next time, Jonessa audience, you listen to another episode of the Jonessa Podcast.
Conversations from the Couch.
See you next time.
Peace.